What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about Bunny. Not the Easter Bunny, but a character named Bunny in a movie that's played by Mo Stark. And in case you're wondering, yes, we are twins. No, we're not. But it's always fun to see somebody with the last name of Stark and to remind you that I'm John Stark and the star's Mo Stark, and just kind of lets your mind wander as to why perhaps maybe I might be covering Bunny. Just leave it at that. I'm covering it just because it was given to me. We're not related at all. But this is a dark comedy, a comedy of errors, if you will. It's being released by Vertical Entertainment on November 14th, and I got an advance look at Bunny. Did not have audio description, and a lot of times with films like this, when I'm trying to sit down with a firm, I like movies. So when I come into things, I don't like to, that's the struggle, right? Is I'm here to give my point of view as what it would be like as a blind person to watch this movie, but also advocate for audio description accessibility. And I like film. Like, I didn't get into this to yell at film. I got into this because I wanted to tell people about films that I liked that maybe other people didn't like, and explain. So Bunny could have been that. It's not, but it could have been, and that's why I wanted to get into it, because Bunny could have been one of those films that was underrated this year. I've seen films with cast members in it that I don't know. I don't know these people. Like, I don't know where these people come from. I don't know these actors. I've never seen them before. Like, and sometimes the experiences are really rewarding, and you get introduced to a whole new independent feature that you weren't expecting otherwise. Some of my favorite movies this year star a lot of people, a lot of actors that I don't know. I don't know anybody in this movie, and looking at their credits, they all have sort of nominal amounts of credits, except for Henry Czerny, who they definitely want you to know is in this movie, because his credits are like combined with the rest of the cast. I think he surpasses them. If you were to group the IMDb credits together of every other actor in the movie, I think he still surpasses them. That dude's been acting forever. What is Bunny? And is it, I've already kind of hinted that I didn't like it, but is it redeemable? Does it have redeemable qualities that perhaps maybe you might like it, and it's just like a me thing and maybe not a you thing? So Bunny starts with an introduction to all of the different residents of this tenement in New York City, and they're an eclectic group. And Bunny is kind of our main introduction to that. There's also Dino, who's played by, I'm gonna go with Ben Jacobson on that. I think that's the name. He's also the writer, director of the film, co-writer. It's written by three people, three friends, and he's also the director. He plays Dino, the friend to Bunny. And Bunny's a little bit of a hustler, and after getting introduced to everybody here and seeing sort of moving everything forward in terms of I don't know, whatever plot might be here, Bunny goes off and has a negative experience, and then comes back and shares it with some of the group. But also there's a man that comes and follows him from that negative experience, and in a struggle, that a man ends up dead. So it becomes a dark hijinks comedy about hiding a body, where actually some of this stuff worked. I didn't like the first, like, it was hard to get into the movie, and then it kind of started to get good, and I was like, oh, we're looking up, we're getting there. I kind of see momentum, I see a plot, I see some a couple of jokes that were working, some of the characters. There's sort of a point in the movie where they go for the humor of that this band of misfits ends up sort of operating as like one unit, and they kind of like chime in and they'll start saying things like together as one thing, which is a nice gag. It just didn't work for me because I think one of the more interesting things about this is the differences in the characters, and I was waiting for each one of them to sort of have their moment, in the disposal of the body, that each one sort of had a particular set of skills. Instead, they kind of just get grouped into like a collective little gang of weirdos that sort of homogenize into we all live in the same place, but we're different, but we have a task at hand here, and we want to make sure that Bunny is protected, and I don't know, they don't like the cops, they want to keep the cops away. So yeah, the film kind of goes into dark places. I'm gonna go into a slight spoiler alert, but not really, because there are redeemable. One of the problems that I had with the movie was simply the choice to rape Bunny. That is the thing that's in this movie. He experiences and has to recount it, and when he recounts it, he doesn't, like, he says it, and then another character says you were raped, and he's just like, huh, like, what? And they never really spend a whole lot of time talking about it, and I know it's like a dark comedy, but he never really seems to like vocalize how he feels about the situation, anything above what his story is. So anytime anybody engages him and reminds him that he was just raped, he's just like, what? I was? And it feels just like, kind of feels like a little bit of of an off-putting approach to that subject, for him to just constantly, for them to brush it off. It's like, you pick and choose. This is not like based on a true story. So you get to choose the catalyst, you get to choose the events, and you've chosen that this is how our lead character is supposed to react to the situation. And he's like the protagonist for which we explore the entire film. And it made me a little bit hard to grasp onto the film as a concept from this moment when I was like, why did we introduce this into the film if that's all we're going to do with it? I think they bring it up like maybe 2 or 3 times, and he just seems oblivious every single time, and then they just move on. And I would have appreciated a conversation, even if it came later, like a late stage, like where he kind of realizes or recaps or something. But it's kind of a heavy topic to introduce as a gag, and that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like that they're using rape as a gag, that he was in a situation and he's recounting the story, and it's supposed to be part of this dark comedy. And I think if you had recast Bunny as a female, it would be less funny. And I think that's kind of the problem with the movie, and why it just doesn't sit right with me, is that for some reason there's an okayness that, well, it was a guy that was raped, so we can make a gag out of it. But then that leads to less guys talking about it, because then it becomes the joke and it becomes the humor. So there's a tiny bit of responsibility here in actually doing something with your subject matter, even in a dark comedy. And a lot of smart writers are able to handle really dark and depressing subject matter while still keeping levity to their projects. They're able to really sort of shine a light on things that are deeply troubling while also making them fun. I don't think that worked here. The sort of sophomoric humor won out in the end. the the ability to know the difference between should and could, like whether or not you should or whether or not you could do it, are not two are I don't think that's a thing that we really understand. So uh I had a hard time getting through the movie after that, and it never really passed a threshold where I felt like I was going to go, yes, this movie has redeemed itself. It made me laugh hysterically. It does have a few good jokes in it, but it's just uneven. It's it is a comedy of errors, but not in the way that you would think. Um, so there's more error than comedy, and that's where it's left me. I always hate these reviews because I feel like every time I negatively review a film that I got a screener for, that somebody's gonna be like, "Don't give him screeners anymore," and it's like, that's not the takeaway. I said this, I think. I remember I had that conversation earlier this year when I reviewed The Martial Artist. I was like, I want to keep reviewing films, like getting screeners. Of course I do. But at the same time, if I'm not honest, then the films I do recommend, which could be your next film, for publicity or distribution, it doesn't mean that I'm constantly saying everything from your studio sucks. So that's the gamble, right? With everything is, did the film work for me? And this didn't work for me. I think I've pretty much explained specifically why, and it may not be a problem for you, but I had a really hard time grasping onto this film's whimsical take on male rape. Just like as a gag. Um, because the way that the other characters seem to have an approach to it is like almost like opening the door to, do you want to talk about it? Like, you were raped. Like they're very blunt about it. They don't use it as a gag, but yet it feels like we're not talking about it for a reason. And I think it's because we're so used to seeing this kind of situation used as a gag, used as a joke. And humor can elevate, and it can ask the tough questions while also being darkly comedic at the same time. Plenty of films have done that. And this film missed its opportunity to have a character reflect on the thing that happened to them, and how that day, I guess you could say at the beginning when he kind of tells you, like, this was really one bad day, you could say maybe he was reflecting on that, because he does kind of reflect on the day, but he doesn't reflect on the events. And that's what I was missing, largely from the film, the character. I had a hard time warming up to it even before that. Like, I didn't really like the first 20 minutes of the movie. It wasn't until sort of they start the stuff of moving around the body, and what do we do with the body, and where do we put the body, and like all those kind of things. Like, that's kind of where the film picked up for me. And then, so like in the middle part of the movie was the best part. And then they start homogenizing the characters together instead of keeping them separate, and allowing them to have their own strength and purpose. I felt like they kind of just moved away from that. They kind of just became like a Greek chorus that followed him through the film. So yeah, I'm sorry, but Bunny's rotten, and it's not a film that I feel like audio description would save either. So I'm not even sitting here going like, maybe if audio description came along. There's fundamental things that I think with the script that just, it's not something that rang true to me, and not something that I can endorse and put a stamp of approval on. So I'm gonna give Bunny a 4.9 out of 10. There was some stuff here that worked. I've definitely seen worse movies this year. I've definitely seen more offensive movies. I've definitely seen all of those things, but it still doesn't change the fact that Bunny didn't work for me. So that's it. That's what I got. Sorry for this. I think it's a directorial debut. But I grow, live and grow, make it already says they're working on their next project. That was in the press notes. So I hope it's better. I hope it's better. I don't hope it's worse. So hopefully this was just them getting their feet wet and the next thing is better. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the other side.